Hey folks, welcome back. Today I'm filming a book declutter video. As I mentioned previously, we moved into a new place and have pretty limited shelving right now. So this has given me an opportunity to just go through some of my old books and to get rid of things, either because I don't want them anymore or things that I'm not going to be reading anytime soon, or things that I just didn't enjoy. So I'm just going to be going through this bin of books I have at my side, just kind of picking stuff up. It's in no particular order, and we'll just talk about some of the reasons I'm offloading these. This edition of The Lord of the Rings, it's kind of sad. It's the Silver Jubilee edition, and I've had these for as long as I can remember, and it's kind of sad to me because they are mismatched set, and I don't know where the other ones are. So I figured, you know, if anyone wants just this one copy of The Two Towers, they can have it. But I don't know, to me, they don't seem as valuable anymore if they're not together. I'm sure they just peeled off in other moves that I've had. But I have here a Signet Classic collection of four Shakespearean tragedies. These were really helpful when I was in school, just to have them all in one place, but I do think that I want to try to find some nicer versions of these to have as lifelong copies, so I'll pass that on. Another book I picked up used is In the Penny Arcade by Stephen Millhauser. This is a collection of short stories, and to be completely honest with you guys, this was a cover buy. I've never actually read any of the short stories out of here, which is kind of awful, but I just don't know that I'll be picking this collection up anytime, so best to just pass it on to someone who will enjoy it. I picked up this copy of Name of the Wind in a little bookshop, and you know, it's a mass paperback copy, and so I got it for $8, I think, and I get it home and I was flipping through it, and look what happened toward the end of this book. Like, the pages got cut off, like so much so that they're not even going to be readable. Like, I don't think, has this happened to anyone else with mass market paperbacks? So I was real bummed out about that, and I don't know, it was suggested that maybe I write the distributor and let them know that that was happening, but I don't know, like, it was $8. I don't know that it's worth complaining about. Plus, I'd like to pick up like a nicer copy of it. So, Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. I picked this up at a used bookshop. Read it. Not my favorite piece of fiction or favorite piece of writing that I've read. It's cool. I'm glad I did read it, but I don't see myself going back to this again. So, getting rid of it. The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice. I got this when I was in high school. It served its purpose. It's done well, but just time to get rid of it. Same thing with Queen of the Damned. Holes, a well-loved children's classic, and not something that really belongs on my shelf any longer. This copy of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I think I got from a book fair when I was in elementary school. Doesn't that kind of look like Jim Carrey a little bit? He could have played it. It's kind of an awesome cover, but I don't know, just not something I reference that often. And this little box set of Lord of the Rings I've had for such a long time. My grandfather used to work at the Red Cross, and they used to get these like books that had been stripped of their covers, and so they were really cool, and it was sort of like, you know, my first Tolkien collection, my first collection of Lord of the Rings. But because they're things that I do want to read again and again, I think I might find a nicer version, like something I can hold on to for a lifetime. I was looking into getting a Folio Society edition of this, even though it kind of breaks my heart to let these go because they were sort of like baby's first box set of Lord of the Rings. But I do think that if there's people that can love it and enjoy it and get some use out of it, I would much rather pass it on. Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood. The most recent memory I have of even thinking about this book was for Eric Carl Anderson's birthday tag. So time to get rid of it. I have a copy of Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Again, not something I'm ever going to read again, but it was cool when I did. So St. George and the Godfather by Norman Mailer. I was interested in reading his work and just saw this at a used bookstore, but I don't think it's probably the Mailer that I want to read. This was definitely a Norman Mailer settle book. So I don't know that it's something, again, that I'll read. I'm more interested in some of his other titles. A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius. Again, the fella and I just have some overlapping copies of things, so he has a nicer hardback edition, and so I'm just going to get rid of this paperback. Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I have, yet again, a mismatched set. So I have the first one, and then I have Mockingjay. And again, never going to read those ever again. Who Fears Death? I did a review on this book. I was so furious with how this book ended. I chucked it across the room when I was done with it. It's not something I'm ever going to read again. And yeah, if someone else wants it and can find some enjoyment out of it, have at it. I have this copy of Hard Times by Charles Dickens. Again, one of these things that's just been with me for decades. So yeah, ready to just get rid of that. I have a copy of Go Ask Alice. I loved this book when I was in high school, but again, just not something I can really see myself revisiting anytime soon. Just on a whim, I picked up Laurie Halsey Anderson's Speak. It was fine. I think my niece might enjoy it, so I might see if she wants it, but if not, donate it. The third, and possibly the best, 637 Best Things Anyone's Ever Said. I feel like a lot of people just have these kinds of books floating around on their bookshelves and you don't know where they came from or who gave them to you or how they got there. I don't know, I might like just go plant this in a friend's bookshelf just to like pass on the mystery of how these things get there. I may do that. I may end up holding on to this for that. Portrait in Sepia by Isabel Allende. Did read it, enjoyed it, never gonna read it again. I have this Laurel Poetry series of Keats, and this is one of those things I would just kind of like to get a nicer copy of if I'm gonna own. I have Frank McCourt's Angela's Ashes. Once upon a time I was interested in reading this book, but it's really just not that high on my priority list, and if I want to, I know where to go to get another copy of this, so definitely we'll just pass this on. I have lots of little copies of Greek tragedies, and there's actually, we have double of this. I have a better copy of this, so I figured I would just pass this on since it's also a duplicate. Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. I've had this book for such a long time. It's sort of bittersweet to give this away, but I know where to get a book, another copy. It just kind of sucks because it's, oh, okay. Well, this was given to my mom from an ex-fiance of hers, so we'll not keep that around. I have The Giver by Lois Lowery. Was excited to read it because I had never read it, but don't really need it any longer. Glad I read it, just don't need to own a copy. Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. I just won't read it again. It was cool. I remember enjoying it, but just not one of those books I feel like I need to have on my shelf. I have this copy of 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I do also want to find just a nicer edition of this, so I'm going to pass that one on. Oh, this is sad. This is Grimm's Fairy Tales collection that I had and since I was a kid, but it's so rare that I'll look at these or that I'll reference them for anything. Folio Society has a really nice collection that if I feel compelled to have it again, I can just find another copy. So it's It's so hard giving stuff up from when you were a kid. We have these mismatched copies of Harry Potter books, and I was thinking about just redoing the covers and making them my own, but I think I just want, maybe if I do replace the collection, I would like something that just doesn't take up such a large footprint on a shelf. Scholastic just released the new covers, which I find kind of cool, like visually more interesting than anything they've put out before. But then I also don't know if I just want Harry Potter books around here any longer. And I feel like they're so ubiquitous that you can probably find them anywhere, like in thrift stores. And so I don't know if I feel that strongly about owning a set in the house, but I have a copy here of Fast Food Nation. Who cares? I have a copy of Water for Elephants by Sarah Gruen, which I've never read, probably will never read, and don't want it hanging around. I have a copy of Travesties by Tom Stoppard. I saw a collection of Tom Stoppard plays at the library, so I feel like if I want to read any more of his plays that I can just find it at the library. Oh, The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making. This was a buy because of Jen Campbell, who loved this book and highly, highly recommended it. I read it and didn't get on with it so well, but have since read some of Catherine M. Valente's work and really liked it. So sold on the author, not on the book. And I'm not going to continue on with the series, so I'm sure someone else would really enjoy a copy of it. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Cool book, not interested in owning copies. Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. It's so hard because this is a Bantam edition. I love Bantam's books. I think it's just one of those types of books that I'd like to have a collector's copy of, or if it's something I'm going to be owning for a lifetime, just try to get something that's a little bit more sophisticated, I guess. I have this book here that is Cubism, Stieglitz, and the Early Poetry of William Carlos Williams. All authors and artists and writers that I love, but I think that in terms of being able to learn more about the movements that they belong to artistically and sort of the schools of art that they came from, I think there's some better books out there for that. So I will definitely be getting rid of this. I also have a copy of 3 Cups of Tea, which was cool to read. I think in a time and a place where I was seeking things like this, it was a nice read, but it's not something, again, I feel like I'll ever go back to or reference for anything or feel compelled to pick up again, so time to get rid of it. Hey, I don't know why this is in there. I didn't put that in there. Never get rid of that. I have another book here called Hippocrates' Shadows, Secrets from the House of Medicine. This was a cool book too. When I was in nursing school, there was definitely some cool stuff I learned from this book, but also written by a doctor, and just talking about how medicine has changed and how just some of the changes that we see, again, with the vetting process of doctors and how medicine has become more of a business than a service now, stuff like that. So kind of cool. And this book I got because my friend Kathleen and I were trying to do like a little 2-person book club. She doesn't live here anymore, and so we thought a good way to stay connected would be to have like a little book club that we would do. And she was telling me about this book called Wait Till Helen Comes by Mary Downing Hahn. And she remembers reading this when she was a kid and just being so scared. And she was like, it was so creepy. It was crazy. And it's like, cool, let's read it for our little book club. It would totally creep out a little kid. I understand it, but it was just so funny. But yeah, not something I need to keep around, but it was an entertaining read for sure. And Lawrence Ferlinghetti's Her. I have tried several times to read this book and just cannot do it. I can't get into it. So I feel like I've given it a good shot. I've given it my all, but it's just not something I can get into. And the cover's so cool though, and I don't really want to give it up, but again, I just feel bad having it sit on the shelves and having it not be read if someone out there in the world can enjoy it. So also, I need your guys' help with something. I have 2 copies of The Confederacy of Dunces, and I'm trying to decide which one to keep. I love this cover a lot more than this one, but for a very old lady reason, I want to hang on to this, and it's because the print is bigger. Which is just the dumbest reason to want to hang on to a book. But I love these like old, I love these Bantam editions of books. And this is Grove Press. This is not a Bantam edition at all. Oh man, that changes everything. I still like this cover better, even though the print is like teeny tiny. But again, this cover not as cool, but the print's like barely bigger. I don't know, but it's a little bit easier on my eyes. So I don't know, if you guys have preferences, let me know what you think. I'm not particularly partial to like parting with any one of these, but let me know. So that's all I've got for you guys. Let me know your opinions if you have any on the Confederacy of Dunces editions. But yeah, some of these are some bittersweet partings, but others I'm definitely glad to be getting rid of. So hopefully there are people out there that can enjoy these books. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you very soon.